In the grand marble halls of Roman power, we often hear the voices of emperors, senators, and generals. But outside the forum, within the walls of villas, in the bustling streets of cities like Rome and Pompeii, another voice echoed, quieter perhaps, but no less important. It was the voice of the Roman woman. Though Rome was a society built by and for men, women formed its foundation. They were the ones who bore Rome's sons, kept its homes running, managed its households, and in some cases, shaped its history. Their names may not appear as frequently in the surviving histories, but their presence was constant, vital, and deeply woven into every level of Roman life. From the moment a Roman girl was born, her life was shaped by male authority. The head of the household, the paterfamilias, wielded absolute power, legally, morally, and socially. He arranged her marriage, controlled her dowry, and in early times, even had the legal right to decide her fate. A Roman girl was raised with one goal: to become a wife and mother. Her education reflected that purpose. Most girls were taught to spin wool, manage servants, keep the household accounts, and remain modest and obedient. Yet this wasn't universal. In aristocratic families, daughters might receive a higher level of education, learning Latin and Greek, reading poetry and history, and sometimes even engaging in philosophical discussions. Education was not intended to liberate them, but to make them more capable managers of elite Roman households. Girls married young, often in their early teens, sometimes to men twice their age. Marriage was rarely a romantic choice. It was a strategic alliance between families, not individuals. When a girl married, she left her father's house and took up a new role in her husband's. In earlier Roman law, she passed entirely into his authority. But over time, this system shifted. Increasingly, Roman women remained legally tied to their birth families, not their husbands. This subtle change had profound consequences. A married woman could now retain property and inherit wealth. She might live in her husband's home, but legally, she was not under his full control. The Roman wife was expected to be loyal, discreet, and dignified. The ideal, but she was also a worker, a manager, and often a silent power behind her husband's public image. She supervised the household staff, handled food supplies, raised children, and managed accounts. For elite women, this could mean overseeing dozens of slaves in an estate spanning miles. A clever, capable wife could bolster her husband's career, and a scandalous one could ruin it. Motherhood was not just a private matter in Rome, it was a patriotic duty. Producing children, especially sons, was seen as service to the state. Women who bore multiple children were rewarded under imperial laws, granted freedom from male guardianship and social prestige. But being a mother in Rome was no easy task. Infant mortality was high. Pregnancy and childbirth were dangerous, and yet Roman women bore the burden without complaint, raising their children to honor family tradition and Roman virtue. Roman mothers were moral anchors. They were educators, not in the formal sense, but in values. They taught their children piety, discipline, and duty to the state. Some were legendary for it. Cornelia, mother of the Gracchi brothers, became the symbol of Roman motherhood. When asked to show her jewels, he presented her sons. Her story was retold for generations. Not all Roman women lived in luxury. The vast majority worked. In the cities, they sold bread, wove cloth, operated stalls in the forum, and brewed wine. In rural areas, they farmed, raised livestock, and helped with harvests. Some were midwives, others physicians. A few even became successful entrepreneurs. In Pompeii, archaeologists found evidence of women who owned bakeries, inns, and textile shops. These were not exceptions. Women were economic actors, and their work was vital to the Roman economy. Some women were born into slavery or sold into it. Their lives were harder, more dangerous, and more uncertain. Enslaved women worked in households, fields, workshops, and brothels. They had no rights. Their labor and their bodies were owned by others, and yet some survived long enough to be freed. Manumission, the granting of freedom, was relatively common in Rome. A freed woman could marry, work, and even own property. Some became wealthy, some became slave owners themselves. The social ladder in Rome was rigid, but it had cracks, and some women climbed through them. Religion offered another sphere where women could find meaning, and sometimes power. In every Roman household, women tended to the family's sacred fire, made offerings to the gods, and invoked the spirits of the ancestors. But there were public roles too. The most revered were the vestalvirgins, priestesses who guarded the eternal flame of Vesta, chosen as children. They served for 30 years and took vows of chastity. In return, they received privileges denied to other women: legal independence, the ability to own property, and protection under the law. A vestal's word carried weight, even in political trials. Other women served as priestesses to goddesses like Isis, Ceres, and Bonadi. During religious festivals, women led processions, offered sacrifices, and presided over rituals. Religion gave women a voice. It was one of the few areas of Roman public life where women could speak and be heard. Some even stepped into arenas once considered unthinkable. There were female gladiators, gladiatresses, rare but real. Their appearances were often reserved for special games and drew both fascination and outrage. Writers mocked them, artists depicted them, and one marble relief even gives them names. Amazon and Aquilia. These women fought with swords, wore armor, and stood in the sand just like men. Their presence blurred the lines between spectacle and scandal. Eventually, Emperor Septimius Severus banned women from the arena, but their existence had already proven that even the strictest roles could be challenged. In legal terms, Roman women were second-class citizens. They could not vote or hold public office, but they were citizens nonetheless, and they did have rights. They could own and inherit property, make wills, and in some cases appear in court. Many managed their own finances. Divorce was not only legal but relatively common, especially among the elite. A woman could leave her husband and retain her dowry. Some women married multiple times, each union a new political or economic alliance. Though formally excluded from politics, some women wielded extraordinary influence. Livia Drusilla, wife of Augustus, was his most trusted advisor and helped shape the imperial dynasty. Agrippina the Younger, mother of Nero, manipulated emperors and commanded court politics. Julia Domna, wife of Septimius Severus, was a philosopher queen who governed provinces and advised generals. These women appeared on coins, shaped imperial policy, and became symbols of female power in a male world. As Rome transitioned from republic to empire, women's roles subtly expanded. Upper-class women became more educated, more visible, and more active in public life. Tomb inscriptions show women sponsoring temples, bathhouses, and games. In the later empire, the rise of Christianity introduced new roles: women as martyrs, nuns, saints, and spiritual leaders. Though church leadership eventually became male-dominated in the early centuries, women were central to its growth. Daily life for Roman women was shaped by class and circumstance. The rich had freedom of movement, fine clothes, and well-fed children. The poor had hard labor, crowded housing, and uncertain futures. But all women, rich or poor, elite or enslaved, shared the common burdens of Roman womanhood, expectations of virtue, duty to family, and survival in a world where men held most of the power. And yet, within those limits, Roman women carved out space to influence, to earn, to love. They left behind not just tombs and household items, but memories, letters, names etched into stone, and stories passed down through centuries. Rome may have been ruled by men, but it was held together by women. Their names are fewer in our histories, but their fingerprints are everywhere. From the kitchens of villas to the markets of Pompeii, from the birthing beds to the marble temples, Roman women lived, labored, led, and endured. Their story is not a side note. It is a vital chapter in the history of one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known.